Hi, David Odell here. This is day 3. It's the morning. Concrete's due to arrive within the next 30 minutes, as well as the concrete pumper. We're all set here. We've got the stucco patch here. This is what we did on day 2. Rebar grade compact, that was day 2. And stucco patch all along here. We did this entire side of the house about a foot and a half up. Scraped all the loose stuff off and then re-stuccoed it so it's ready for paint. Today we're gonna pour. This is about 9 yards, probably about 8. We got 9, just to be on the safe side. They carry up to 10 around here, so we're good on that. This is the expansion foam. Here's the stuff. We glued this to the wall right here because we're bound in between these two fixed points. That gives it a little play. And then it has a tearaway on here. Now, if you want, you put this up, pour to here, and then later you pull this out. Then you can put some caulking here, or just leave it recessed, whatever. I don't do either typically. I just remove that piece, and I put this side down, and then I have solid all the way to the top. Anyway, let's get back to work and wait for concrete. All right, the concrete has arrived. This is Bender Ready Mix. They've got a couple plants, Santa Ana and Gardena. Possibly one coming up in Corona. Right now I'm going up on the truck. I got 4 pounds of fiber. I got 9 yards here. This particular fiber mesh I happen to carry in stock, and I do sell it through my storefront with a few other odds and ends. Another good thing about climbing up on the truck is you can actually look at the slump by looking into the barrel. Instead of having to run it down the chute to see what kind of mix you got, you can actually take a look inside. They have slump meters as well in these trucks, but I really don't typically trust those 100%. Basically, you've got to look at it. Right here, I'm bringing the concrete to the back fin. And then we stop the barrel there. Then I drop the fiber. And we had a nice smooth hopper that would have slid down into the barrel, but since it's not, I'm going to have to flush it down on top of that concrete. So that's what I like to happen, and this is how I do it with color as well. If I'm doing integral color, I'll drop it on top of the concrete after I bring it back. That way I get all the color on the load and less stuck to the fins. Same idea with the fiber. So concrete is mixing in the front and the pump hose is getting laid out. A little 3M spray adhesive. This is your primer water that was in the pump. Kind of lubricates the hose before the concrete hits it. I like to run about a full wheelbarrow to make sure I get most of the water out, and then we get to the good mix right away. This particular mix design here is a straight sack 3000 psi. That straight sack 3000 psi means no fly ash, and I could tell a big difference right away. Very sticky. It's not, when the fly ash is in there, it seems like it's more flowable. It's not as sticky. So I think sticky is better. It means it's holding everything together. That little future 3/4 PVC for water, I wrapped that with the same expansion foam that I used on the side yard. That's my 12-foot aluminum. I'll run that along the wall because that's going to be a wet screed over there. I'm just going to ride off of that wetty and just pull it on down. And that's all eyeball work right there. Because we don't have much slope on this particular job site in any given direction, and typically what I want to see happen is the water to run from the backyard to the front yard. So that's normally the only way out of these. So I'm going to have to double check it when I get out there on my sliders. I'll bring a 10-foot Illumi and a level to set on top of it and just kind of check it off my boards all the way out. Now we're down here. Now what we had to do here is turn and burn, which means we took our 12 as far as we could go without backing ourselves into the wall, and then we turned. So just like we did the other wall, I'll pull another weddy off of this. Then I'll ride off that weddy again and pull it on out. There's a little foothold right there. And because of this particular mix, if I had some fly ash in there, when I pull my feet up with fly ash, the actual hole almost closes by itself because it's more flowable with that fly ash in there. Without it, I've really got to backfill. You will get more splattering with this particular mix though, but all in all, it's going to be a stronger mix. Okay, that's the 3-foot wood bowl float. We're going to run that first, and then after we come back around, after we're poured out, then we'll run the magnesium, the 4-footer. We're going to hand tool joint this all up same day. We're going to run 1 the long ways down the middle and 2 across, and then we'll come off the corner of the house and then 2 more down the side yard. Now here's your magnesium bowl float with a rocker arm on it. I've already hit the edges with the walking edger, 10-inch wide, 1/2-inch radius. Now what I've done here, because we're getting ready to cut some joints, I tied the string line to my poles. That way I can hold the poles out there in the middle and snap the line. Now I'm measuring the length of this patio so I can evenly space the next joints. Now we've got all of our lines snapped in there with a dry line. This is about a 2.5-inch deep cutter, 3 foot wide long, and it's got a sight in the front, so you can just look down that sight and stay on that line that we snapped in there. Although in some of these occasions I was bouncing off the rebar pretty heavily, so it was pretty difficult to keep it running. Because my rebar is probably an inch below the surface, inch and a half. And this is about 2.5 inch deep, so I was hitting it here and there and getting kind of hung up. That's a good sign, because then you know the rebar's in the concrete. Now we're just going back over these joints with the final joiner that we'll be using in the end. And that's 3/4 deep with a 1/2 inch radius. But the main thing that deep cutter's doing, not only does it keep it straight because of the length of it, it also breaks your aggregate all the way down to that depth. So if you were to even cream this crack all the way in, it would still crack there, because all the aggregate is separated. To push the aggregate back in all the way down is difficult. Typically it fills back in with just some of the cream. Right here I believe I'm stuck on some rebar. I'm adding a pole actually. So I made it to my second joint. I couldn't make it all the way to the wall. So when we get out there on knee boards, we'll bring an aluminum straight edge with us and hand joint that last 10 feet in. Kind of unfortunate because I didn't get my 2.5 inch deep cutter in there to really break that aggregate. But I got it over 3/4 of the distance, so that should do the trick. Here's your magnesium funny float, just knocking out some lines here and there, knocking out the joiner lines, the edger lines, keeping it nice and flat. Trying to stay clear of the joints so we can see them when we run again. Now we're running those joints again, and our next, then we'll run the funny trowel to knock out the lines this time. Here we are with that aluminum 2x4, just finishing up that joint that we weren't able to get in off the poles. Right here I was checking with the aluminum 2x4, checking slope and checking for humps and bumps. And I did find one right here on the corner of the house. When I put the level on it, I had to cut it in, cut a little valley to get it around the corner there. So I had a couple of knee boards full of extra concrete at this point that I carved out of there to get the water to get around the corner. So we have a joint off the corner of the house, then we have 2 more as we go down the side yard there. And this is our first pass on the sliders. We will have to do one more pass. This first pass is most crucial because you're getting your joints in, you're checking your elevations, checking slope, getting all the joints in. Just the first pass is your most crucial. You're getting it flat at that point. The second pass is just a little clean up and finished product. We did run an edge on that expansion joint on the side of the house. Now it's broom time. 50% nylon, 50% horsehair. And I freshly oiled that with some WD-40 as well. Keeps those hairs nice and shiny, and the concrete doesn't stick as easily. Now if you look at the grout joints of the wall and the height from end to end, it doesn't look like there's much slope. And I think that's because the wall is on a slope. So it creates somewhat of an optical illusion if you're trying to figure slope based on existing lines. That's when you need transits, laser levels, stuff like that. Right here we had some shade, so we had to wait probably an extra 20 minutes, 30 minutes to continue the broom procedure all the way through. Now we just do a little sponge cleanup along the existing concrete where we got a little residue on there from the pour. There's that line all the way down the middle. Good crack control joints. And we took the form off.